Wagwan, are you there? What's good? And you know who this is, baby. The number one podcast in America, dedicated to all you kings and queens of color, homies and homettes, shotters, woo gals, G-boys, and chargies. The one and only Jerk Jollof and Collard Greens podcast.
Wagwan, are you there? What's good? It's your boy G Ransom. On today's episode, we'll be chopping it up on the power of positivity. More specifically, our individual approach to keeping it on the straight and narrow when the odds seem tipped out of our favor. We'll touch on topics such as karma, personal development, faith, hope, negativity, and knowing when it's time to probably let someone or something go. Yes, we're going to cover it all. So be sure to tune in for your daily dose of culture and more right after these tributes. Now, I don't have any announcements today, so we're going to chop right into CP time and check in with our lovely panel, my brothers in bond, Chunky, Francis, and D Black. Say what's up to the people.
What it do, baby?
How you
Fantasy's
do?
going. Hey, yo, Fantasy's going well this week, though.
I
How you
appreciate
day,
everybody
panel?
listening and tuning in to us. We've been trying very hard to do what we do best. Shout out to Glenn for putting this together. Francis, go fuck yourself. D Black, you're amazing.
Fuck you too, Chunky.
Thank you.
Whoa.
I have
needed that.
I'm nothing. gonna take
I'm
that
amazing.
and put that in my coffee tomorrow morning.
Talk about positivity. We got
Use it however you
mutual
want.
mutual fucktivity going on. Mutual fuckery
I run off of
happening.
coffee and hate. Let's do this.
Mutual
all
fuckery
love.
taking
It's all
place.
love, though.
Yeah.
So now that your gears are all wound up, let's chop it up. And I think this really ties into the topic today when we talk about knowing when to let someone go. But particularly now, as of the date of this recording, I know some of this information might be stale or old because we do record on a bi-weekly schedule. But I wanted to talk about Shankilla Robinson real quick because that's been all the buzz, not because it's been buzzworthy, but because it's something that has actually happened. I think it's really relative to our personal experiences and kind of monitoring who you keep in your circle. But if you're not aware, Shankilla Robinson was a North Carolina native, 25 years old, went to Cabo San Lucas with a group of friends, and unfortunately did not return. She's appeared to just allegedly died mysteriously, according to her friends that were on the trip with her. Video was released days after her passing that displayed her being assaulted by one of her fellow vacationers. Now, the story that they told her mother was that she passed away from alcohol poisoning. She passed away from food poisoning. I think she was dead on the premises for like a day or two before any medical staff got any attention or were made aware of it. And, so this is a very unfortunate circumstance and occurrence to happen. And I just wanted to get your takes on it. When they say know who you're traveling with or know who you have in your circles, I mean, when you think of this incident, is that something that resonates with you or something that stands out to you when you think of the unfortunate demise of Miss Robinson?
Yeah, man, like it's unfortunate. It's a really sad story because it makes me kind of remember to kind of think about my recent trip. I was just in Cabo with a bunch of guy friends, and just the idea of traveling with those group of people and something bad happening to that level, and one of us not making it back, it just makes me one feel sorry for her family, all of her loved ones who obviously gonna miss her. But yeah, it just kind of make you like question the people you have around you, the integrity of the so-called friends that you have. It just makes you even like be more observant and really figure out who are for you, who really fucks with you the long way, right? The way people say it sometimes, who fucks with you the long way, who truly has your best interests at heart. And it was, because a lot of time in the black community, I don't know why, but we have so much hate and jealousy towards each other, and it comes out in an ugly, unfortunate way sometimes. And it's just so sad that it's always happened in our community and we just can't figure it out. I just don't know. It makes me just so sad, and it just it's just sad to watch the video, and just the fact that they try to cover it up is even like they deserve to be in jail. They deserve to rot in jail. I don't care what happens to them at this point. They deserve whatever comes their way, and they definitely, and justice for Miss Robinson, man. So
It's the crazy part when you're watching the video. I'm not sure if everyone's seen it, but it was a cell phone video footage, and you hear the gentleman recording, "You're not going to fight back. You're not going to fight back," and she's basically on the ground being assaulted. And I think one of the alleged reasoning for it happening was because she was a successful business owner. She's 25. She had her hair braiding business, and she was doing really well. And I think supposedly she funded a majority of this trip where they were staying in a villa in Cabo. And she also had $10,000 on her that did not, that's still yet to be discovered or be found. So the idea is that the motive is that they wanted her money. They were jealous of her, to speak in that, crab in the bucket mentality or crab in the barrel. You often hear that being used, within the Black community. Like, do you guys think it's really a matter of us not wanting to see each other be successful?
I don't think it's that. So, my standpoint, I know I get a lot of heat for this, but, test your assumption of being at your earliest convenience. So I think the generations now are different. I'll say for our generation, the people that we got to know, we actually hung out with them consecutively. And this is an example of that, right? We had our ups and downs and we figured shit out. I don't think the generation behind us does that. Everything is done on social media. Everything is done behind a camera or a computer screen. So you can't really judge a person based off of that. You really don't go through real trials and tribulations. So it's not to take anything away from the past. The new generation, they just do it differently. And if someone's after me for what I have, we can have a conversation like, yo, what the fuck is it? Is there something that I have that you want? I can help you get there if you're my friend. If you're still jealous, get the fuck away from me, because that shit doesn't end positively. And if you want to come after me, best believe I'm not going to meet you with equal aggression. So at the end of the day, you have to understand where someone puts their foot down, where someone plants their flag. If you're after me because you're jealous, then check your own shit. And I have to know that as a human being that you're not really with me for me. Because the people that ride or die for you aren't the people that pull out their straps, but the people that pull you up when you're down. The people that you can have a conversation with when you're not in the right mindset. The people that will be there for you when you go through something that you fucked up on and tell you that you fucked up. But the people that are just there to share your glory and not share your pain, those are the people that honestly need to leave, because at the end of the day, when that storm comes, they're not going to cover you with an umbrella. They're going to be sitting from their car pointing and laughing at you. And it's hard to detect that with this new generation because we're not always around each other. So at the end of the day, I'm not saying be abusive or mean to your friends, but you got to have that conversation and you have to weigh out the instances that you've been through to really judge someone. And you can make a bad judgment. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I'm a perfect person. I've had some people in my circle that tried to fuck me over. But it comes with time. It comes with experience. But you'll know when someone's good for you. Like they say, trust that gut instinct. Trust it. They ain't for you. You're not losing much. People are here in your life for a reason. Sometimes we don't know why, and sometimes they leave, and it sometimes sucks. But that's life.
All right, so let's get the final weigh-in from D Black on this.
Yeah, and I won't be too long on this. I just think it's interesting as I'm listening to you guys kind of talk about this, is that there's always going to be some kind of underlying perceptions on when we're looking at this kind of situation, right? Like, is it like a toxic relationship where maybe, like you said, some friends wanted some ill against her, maybe they're hating or whatever, all these kind of terms. And then when it comes to the prevalence of that in the Black community, that's another thing. But I think also, to Chunky's specific point, the strength of the relationship is what really kind of stood out for me, because I do think that currently, like the younger generation, they don't necessarily bond the way that we do. I guess I'll say we do, right? Like, because how we have in our relationships growing up as friends, like they don't really like push each other. They don't call each other out. They don't have true tiffs. And if they do have tiffs, then they're no longer friends. So everybody's kind of like in this agreeable state. And hey, let's go out and let's go do something very potentially dangerous. Let's go to another country and let's go together with these people that are just all agreeable in this one particular space. Yeah, you don't really know them. You haven't vetted them. So to Chunky's point, yeah, the strength of a relationship really matters. And I think that that's the real, like, it goes all the way back to answering, your original question, looking at like who you're traveling with really, really matters. You need to be kind of really cognizant of who you're going to a foreign place with, because your local US laws may not always, carry over.
And it's kind of funny that, one of the things being brought up is the matter of timing and the age of people involved. But I mean, I think this story has been told even before us. I mean, we can even look at the Bible. What was it? Wasn't it the story of, what's his name? Peter, or one of them. There was a story in Genesis where Exodus, where and I'm forgetting his name. I think it was Peter or John. He was sold by his brothers to the Egyptians out of jealousy. You know what I mean? So it's something that's not, it doesn't ignore anyone that's not 30 and up. This is things that have been going on for years. We even see cases of people that loan money to friends on First 48 killing somebody for $50. You know what I mean? And it's just like, and that actually expands across races. It's not just a Black thing either, but it seems to really be something within us as human beings. A fault. Jealousy is one of those faults. And if it drives you to kill someone, then I mean, your own people that you will call your friends. Yeah. And I mean, to top this off, I'm going to quote the legendary St. Thomas DJ Popcorn when he said, with friends like these, who needs enemies? You know what I mean? So definitely know who's in your circle. I think is a great takeaway there.
And that's a great quote.
And pay attention to those red flags too. When it comes to people that don't support things that you're doing, that are quick to pass negativity, like, oh, why you want to do that? Why they don't, you can see those things ahead. Not victim blaming, but pay attention for sure. Especially as you're making moves in your life, you'll know who's riding with you and who isn't. So let's get to our street stat and my final CP talking point. And it comes from a Twitter thread that I reached out to get the permission to use. And the topic was telling how many bodies a woman has. And the rumor is, I'm going to say it's a rumor because I don't think there's any truth to it, but I want to hear your take on it. A man can tell how many bodies a woman has based on her energy, odor, and feel. Now, is there any truth to that statement?
So I'm gonna go first and be quick. Cap.
I was about to say that. I was about to say cap.
I'm done. That's all I have to say. Cap. I'm finished.
I just want him to elaborate on what he means by feel.
Feel, how the grip, the tightness.
I was like, it feels like a bag of sand. You're version.
Like, girl, you'd say they feel like you've been with 20 guys. Like, what? I don't get it. That's a great question. That's a great. Oh man.
So we're in unison here. You cannot tell how many cannot tell how many bodies.
We have someone with medical experience, so let's see.
The vagina specialist.
You're alluding to on that particular topic, because I am not gynecologist in any form.
I'm not saying a gynecologist. It's just like this scientifically makes sense.
Okay, well, I don't know if there's any scientific justification for a man being able to. I will say maybe I can go one angle. It's not scientific. Maybe it's more biological, or not. Maybe not biological. I'll just say, like, we tend to make associations with a person. I'll just say not a woman, male, just in general, a person based on how they carry themselves. So if you carry yourself like you have man, woman, whoever, carry yourself like you have a lot of bodies, people will assume you have a lot of bodies. So
how does a person that carries
is that more psychological and social?
I mean, what does that person look like though, so we know? I mean, not that you guys care anymore, but for me, explain how does that person look or act?
I mean,
I'll say maybe I'll. Well, no, okay. It's not necessarily, again, if you're
this your second hole.
I don't think it's a whole
last episode.
I think I don't know, maybe for me it would be like if they're too overly flirtatious with numerous people, they give off a flirtatious vibe. Maybe that would be my one thing.
Maybe
that
she
I would
likes to flirt.
She's a flirt.
And again, I keep saying like you keep saying she. I'm not saying she could be a dude.
They, he, them,
a person.
Everyone.
Well, yeah. I mean, so this is one thing though. this is one thing, like at least from a guy, like at least I know, like when I was, you know, in the streets back in my young days, right?
Streets.
Mm. You know, I mean, what guys say sometimes, I don't know how true this is. They said how loose she is usually says she's been with
I was like, is that something
bunch.
you said? And you're trying to cover up saying like a friend said it?
Hey, what you mean?
That was actually
What
one of
you
the
mean?
top comments was the grip, the feel. But I'm like,
Yeah,
nowadays,
how loose she is. So
yeah.
if she's loose, you know, I don't know. It usually means she's been around a few times. But I don't
Or
know if
maybe
I'm
your dick
gonna.
is small.
Damn. Or maybe she uses the vibrator quite a bit. You know what I
That
mean?
too.
She was
That's what I'm saying.
inviting.
Like, but like I said, back in my days, that was the notion and
Yeah.
the sentiment that goes around the young, like the boys. Like, okay, if she's loose, you know, it means like she's been around a few the block. So, yeah. But I mean, to defend my cousin though, actually, to your point, also if you are in a group of of men, using a woman as an example in this statement, if for example she's with you and she's giving me looks, she's giving Glenn looks, she's giving Chunky looks. I mean, like, what does that mean? I don't know. Like,
Maybe she
I'm
finds all of us attractive.
Attractive, yeah.
exactly.
Like,
Yeah, yeah. What does that mean?
But
Yeah.
What does that
that
mean?
doesn't mean anything. Like you can't
Yeah,
find someone
it's-
attractive.
Come
So
on,
if you
bro.
like back back in the day, and you being in the street days, whatever you want to be, if you went out to a club or whatever, and you
Yeah.
saw a group of very attractive women, right?
Right.
Very attractive, dressed
Right.
really well, everything's good to
Okay.
go. You're just gonna glance at them once and look away.
No, bro, I'm saying if she came with one of the guys. We already passed this phase already. You already like
So,
you
I mean-
bagged her, you brought her to the boys, you want to
Okay, I
introduce
see
her
what
to
he's
the
saying.
fellas, right?
Okay, that's your scenario.
I
So
see.
let's
Then-
reverse that. And like your girl
then-
brings you to her friends, and you look at her friends like, damn, all your friends are attractive.
Then she
I don't think
start
that's a
looking,
next-
she start giving highs to all the rest of the boys. Like, bruh.
So okay, so someone says hi to you, they're flirting with you. Now we know the
Bruh.
standard. Now
I
we
think
know the
we know there's a
standard.
way
Bruh.
to navigate that, right?
Listen.
Like there's a way to do it and a way not to do it. I kind of see
Listen.
what Francis is saying though.
And that's what
but-
I was saying about overly flirtatious.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
what
here we
I'm
go.
saying.
You go
That's what
backpack
I'm
on
saying.
it.
No. That's what
He's
that's what
already.
That's what I
said.
was
Glenn,
saying.
That's how I
He's trying to get out the
I
hole.
said-
He's
I
trying to
said-
get out the hole. Francis has a ladder.
Glenn. I said in defense of my cousin, then I elaborate
Yeah,
with that
listen,
example where
listen.
it does
Alright,
happen.
nah.
It's an example. It does.
Like,
Whatever.
it doesn't tie to it all the
Trust
same
me,
thing.
it happens.
Oh, I trust you. All right, I trust you.
Once
Nah,
you start
you-
giving
you
the
got
looks,
it,
it
you
means
got it.
anything can
Okay,
happen.
listen.
Come on, bro.
Dr. Francis, I apologize.
So
Loose.
yeah, so in a way, I mean, a lot of those comments were like not St. Francis's comments, but from what I saw on the Twitter, it was just like veering on misogyny towards this. But in all, you really can't tell.
Yeah.
Men don't have a psychic ability to tell. We're just lost as anyone else on the matter. Just to clear that up, basically.
Unless you've been in the streets, then you got that ability. Once you come out of the
Yes.
streets, you don't know anymore.
Unless you're slaying in the same circle of women or men. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, to your place, you can't. I mean, nobody has a. We don't know the past or the future, so
we don't
No
know.
body
know.
detector.
we don't know.
All right, but that's it for CP time. If you have a topic you'd like us to talk about, preferably a week expired or late for that matter, feel free to send it to us. Or even if it's recent, feel free to shoot it to us on social media at Jerk Your Love Collar Pod, where you can also get more updates regarding the podcast. And don't forget, check us out on YouTube. We got a lot of video up there. We got some thumbnails up there, a lot of content. If you want to put some faces to these voices, go on YouTube. All right. All right. So without further ado, let us chop, let us feast, as they say nowadays. And let's start off with this question. And I like to call this segment Bearing It All. What is your greatest insecurity? Everyone all at once. And I see everyone pondering. So
I was like, oh,
feeling-
who
feeling
wants to
stupid.
talk about insecurities,
this,
right?
this feeling unintelligent, I would say, is my greatest insecurity. Is walking into a room not knowing what I'm talking about, and I'm like, I just want to know as much as I possibly can. It's the most awkward situation where you're having a conversation, or if I've had conversations, like, oh, what is this? I'm like, oh shit, I don't know. So, I don't ever want to be the dumbest person in the room, and like that's what I'm insecure about. Like I like to think of myself as a smart person, but my insecurity is just like I haven't researched enough, I haven't experienced enough, or I haven't learned enough in order to, speak about it. So that's what's going on in my head majority of the time. It's just like, yo, I'm about to come out my mouth and sound stupid. Now there are times I've said some stupid shit, like legit stupid shit,
We
and
know.
just ate it.
Gotcha.
It's just like, yo, noted. But that's
know,
it.
that
That
I'm
shows
not
growth
most
right
of the
there.
time.
You can know, like, that was not a good
I'm
moment.
like,
You remember that moment.
it's just like, fuck, man.
So like, how do you
Yeah.
prevent that then? Like, how do you
Just
read
being
encyclopedias? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, I'll sit there. Didn't Machine Gun Kelly say that to Eminem? Like, all you do is sit there and read encyclopedias.
You did, actually.
Reading dictionaries,
Oh my
sources.
God.
I mean, I accept me for me, right? I don't know everything. Even though I strive to know as much as I can, and I'm a human being, so I'm fallible. So I'm gonna say something dumb, right? It's cool. I mean, at the end of the day, people's perceptions are people's perceptions, and I think that's what eats at me the most sometimes, depending on who you are in my life, whether it's work related or like life, like personal related. So my biggest concern is people's perception of me at work, right? And it's like people who have the influence about the growth in my career. So it's just like, if I sound dumb to them, I'm like, yeah, we don't want this person to move up the ladder because this guy is an idiot. So, but I guess I keep true to my personality. I'm a fun-loving dude, even though I choose violence at the end of the day. I just like to enjoy life. Life is hard enough itself, right? So why make it harder for myself? So yeah, to cap all this, but no cap. Just don't want to seem stupid, but at the same time, I'm I'm who I am. I'm not a meathead, so I think that's like the biggest thing to sum that up. Like, people think I'm a meathead. I'm like, I'm not.
That's funny.
What about you, Fran?
Yeah, no, I've kind of mentioned this before, and it's really interesting because I used to not used to share this, but more recently I found that it's been powerful for me to actually talk about it. So for me, it's my speech impairment. Like, really, growing up with like stuttering it impacts the way that I talk, the words that I use, really how I phrase my statement, because, or even using like some complex or larger words because I don't want to stumble on it. So, and to your point, Chunky, like, it does get in your brain, especially like in a work setting, because you don't want to like get up trying to like have a conversation with people and you can't, like, you just over there like can't get the words out, right? So, I mean, something that I've like really been working. I've been, I've came a long way, so I'm at a point where if I don't actually like trust you and I don't share that part of myself with that person, it's hard to tell sometimes. But for me, I know the battles that I'm dealing with, the battles that I face. There are some words that I know when I try to say it, it triggers it, right? So, and it's just but yeah, I mean, like, one of the most defining moment for me, like, many years when I got started in corporate. I was working and this is before I got into engineering and IT, but I was working at a hospital, and I was working doing billing, and I had to call this lady about her bills, and I remember making that phone call, and this is actually like sharing like a story that I've never I actually just shared it with my wife not so long ago, but
Also, we're the
and
second ones to know.
well, I'm sharing it with the world now,
Oh,
so it's
shit.
like it's crazy, but
Oh,
Don't worry,
so, like,
I'll edit it out. Don't worry about
but I remember I called this lady, and I just wanted to tell her, like, hey, you got this overdue bill, like, blah blah blah, you know, and I remember I couldn't even get the words out, and I was just stuttering on the phone call. And I remember she said, "God bless your heart. God bless your heart."
it. Oh, bless your heart.
And God bless your heart. That was like a
she
really
hit you with the
defining.
church lady quote. The church mom.
Yeah, like, and it's just like, and I remember I dropped off that phone call and I was like, man, I hate this job. I can't be calling people. This
Like,
is
I'm out.
this is not like a job that I could do for too long. And I do appreciate that job because it did force me to come up with a system that I had to use to like be excellent in my job. Right.
Mhm.
And so yeah, so I just, I know you wanted to share, you asked to share a story to support,
That's what's up.
so that was really kind of like the defining moment for me. And I was like, okay, I need to really find a way around this.
Mm,
So, but like I said, I've been working at it since I was young, and it has gotten better as I've gotten older. But it is something that I still like struggle with here and there, but it comes out in weird way.
okay.
But it doesn't. It is part of who I am. I'm not ashamed of it,
Yeah.
and I've learned that I've been sharing it more with my leaders, my mentors, and people that especially like my bosses, and just to kind of it's I think in a way share it creates a bond of trust with the person, because they're like, okay, you trust me with this kind of information,
Hmm.
so like but yeah, that's mine because it impacts me every day. So
Wow, this is
but yeah.
up. That's not too
Mhm.
bad, better than saying, yo, I'm fucking up on these reports, but it's all good.
I don't think that's an insecurity. I think that's just you being a horrible worker. I think that's different.
D Black, what's your take? What's your insecurity?
For me, I know we talked about this. I think it was like season one, and still working on it. But mine will always be like letting people down. I always have that issue, like, even for like in a professional setting, in a personal, especially in a personal setting. Like the more I value my family members and people who are close to me, the more pressure I feel about letting them down. So I try to kind of work in a very strategic way to not like disappoint people. Um, so I think it's very interesting. I will say one thing though, I think it's pretty cool, like how we kind of touched upon this like in season one. So if anybody has listening, like go back to season one and you kind of see that we've kind of touched on some of these kind of issues and these kind of ideologies before, but then you'll kind of see the growth in our responses and even the growth in the pod itself from that season one to now, as we've kind of touched on some of these similar issues before. So even me, who's kind of like, again, I'm referencing, you know, letting people down, but I've understood, like one thing that I've grown from that first season is now I know how to talk to people about what I'm capable of and what I'm not capable of, and not over promising and being truthful about what I'm not going to do, based on my situation or whatever, pray tell, right?
Gotcha. So, like, apart from your insecurities, would you say that there's any other aspects of your own development that you're constantly working to improve? So, apart from your greatest insecurity, is there anything else of you individually you're working on currently? And I would say for me personally, like one of my probably recent revelations is like, I realized sometimes when people give you negative feedback or you feel like they're coming at you with some negativity that's out of nowhere, a lot of the times the problem is not you. So what I've learned to do lately is, or one thing that I'm constantly working on, and I've seen the results of it, is taking myself out of the equation. So
Mhm.
basically, I'm just eliminating my ego. I am now thinking to myself, there's no way, or why do I have the audacity to think that I have so much weight in this person's life that I am the direct cause of their anger or their frustration or their venting? So a lot of the times I realize when you take yourself out of the equation and you just look at that, look at the behaviors, you know what I mean? Look at what they're showing you and you pay attention to it. A lot of times you realize it's not your fault. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we can take heat a lot of the times, or we take someone's response the wrong way, and that starts a lot of unnecessary tribulations. And you realize, the problems probably isn't really even me, especially if you didn't really do anything on your end that
Mhm.
was causing anything offensive or unjustified. So it's just kind of like, take yourself out of the equation a lot of times, when sometimes when you feel like you're getting feedback from your boss or a friend or a family member, and to even check in with the person and be like, yo, is everything good? Or when you leave that exchange, leave them with, hey, I hope all is well on your end. Because a lot of the times you will find out, yo, I was going through a shitty day. Oh, my relationship's not going so well. Yo, work is stressing me out. And then you realize, okay, it's not really you.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. To answer your question, Glenn, I know this is meant to be like a serious question, but you give that cliche answer. You give you,
mhm.
yo,
I don't even know what's coming, but I
yo,
know it's gonna be good.
I'm waiting for it.
yo, chunky, yo, you're funny. But okay. What I'm trying to say is sometimes we want this cliche answer like, oh, I want to be a better person. I
Mm,
want to be a better delegator. I want to be a time management, whatever, etc. But fuck
Mhm.
that. I'm trying to lose this weight, bro. Yo,
Yeah.
I got this
Yo.
10, 15 pounds that got on me during COVID, and I've yet to get it off.
I mean, that's
I've been
it.
in the gym
That's it.
trying to lose it. I'm trying to
Absolutely.
work on my muscle so I can look good naked, right? Obviously, right? One.
And
You
I
should
wear
always look good
important.
naked in your
literally,
opinion.
bro.
I mean, so my point is that's what I've been working on the last 12 months, and it ain't working.
So you,
I don't know if y'all
better
got
health.
pointers or something,
It's
but
different in your 30s, man. Get a
Yeah.
nutrition plan.
bro,
Yo, being a dad,
tell me
bro,
about it.
I ain't gonna lie to you. That shit hard because you don't got that time.
Yo,
wait till
I've
they get
been-
older, you're gonna have less time. So it's just like Yo,
I'm maintaining it right now. I
diet.
can't lose.
diet. That's the
Get
best
a
thing I can
nutrition
tell you.
plan.
Diet, yeah.
Our bodies
you can work it
changed
how
a
you want.
lot from the 20s.
Yeah, man, I've been clanking the weights recently, and it's just like, oh, I know I have to eat better, but like if my child has leftover food like pizza that they, I'm
You eating that shit.
I
You already
purchased
know.
it. I used my money to get
Yeah.
it. So
Like,
it
that's-
ain't
It's
going
like
This
you
is
to
all
running
good.
around the house.
He's like, this is consignments. This is you don't own this.
There's a
This is
loose
still
fry.
mine.
mine. So,
You know, for some reason, like when I thought of that question, Glenn, I thought of this meme on TikTok that says, I don't know exactly how it goes, but it was like, I just want to like, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. It's like, I just want to like be able to like slang the D or something, and
Yeah.
like, yeah, you know what I'm talking
What
I
are you
don't
talking
know.
about?
Yeah, exactly. That's what clicked. I wish if we got the audio, we'll share it on IG so people know what I'm talking about. But
I mean,
yeah,
slinging the steel is important, especially as
Yeah.
you age. I saw somewhere else, they was like, yo, if you're in your 30s, start paying attention to this because, you know, shit starts going downhill. You know what I mean? The D
I
just
mean,
not
it's
the
also
same.
it's also testosterone, right? So it's like
Yeah.
there's medical reasons why, and it's just like you can supplement that, or you can just come to grips with like, yo, this is how we're biologically set up. So it has nothing to do with you specifically. But knowing Glenn, he has all these like I forgot what episode he named like
Yeah.
90 things that he takes to.
Yeah, I think it's like diet adds to it too. You know what I mean? Because you're not 20 anymore. And if you eat like trash, there are certain foods that can kill your testosterone too. So it's like, you know, you can't expect to be slinging the steel if you're eating burgers and fries every day.
I'm eating a
You know what I mean?
whole ass cow.
Nah, you ain't slanging
You
the
already
steel
told
like
us
that.
you don't do that. You literally go around eating your daughter's leftover fries.
I have
Yeah.
to. I have to. Those chicky nuggies are delicious.
no, but like to be fair though, I do want to give myself some credit because I do be in the gym. It's just like it just won't come off. So
No one took credit from you.
I'm maintaining. So I just want
Is that
I'm
a, is,
maintaining, but I can't lose.
is that an insecurity? So is that moving
Yeah.
up to the first question?
And I already get my insecurity, but I'm
Here
just
he
saying,
is at
yo,
insecurity.
this is
this is what
this is
I'm
the
work-
first.
this
You
is
haven't
what I'm
switched up on an
working.
answer.
this is what I'm working constantly to improve on.
I
This
am
is
so
I'm trying
proud of you.
I'm trying to build this muscle so I can look good naked.
Once again, come over
I'm so
here.
confused
Come
because
here
I
and
thought
fuck with me.
because friend, when we play basketball, you have all types of abs. I'm trying my body goals is to get like you, bro.
I ain't trying to
Nigga
get abs
abs
anymore.
on
As long as
abs.
it's-
I'm
as long
like,
as
what
it's
is he
flat.
talking about, bro? He chisels his hub.
As long as it's flat, I don't
Always
care.
get better. What about you, D? What are you working to improve
I
other than your insecurity?
I don't know. I feel like I'm always it's not a cliche answer. It's just a little bit not a specific answer because I'm always in a constant state of self-improvement. I think it's important to always be asking yourself what you can do better. I will say that, you know, it sounds very simple, but it actually isn't because you literally are constantly asking yourself, asking yourself a question of, you know, am I better at this? Can I improve this? Do I run faster? Do I jump higher? Like you're constantly dissecting everything. So, I don't know. So I feel like it will drive you a little crazy though sometimes. But the ultimate goal is to kind of continue to be improving. That's me. That's what I feel like makes me ultimately a better person. And I think specifically, I've been working on being more understanding, being a better listener, being more understanding. And I feel like that's one of the things that will better help me in my working space and in my personal space as well.
All right, it's fair. Chunky, what about you? Adding more violent repertoire or what?
Yeah, violence is always number
Be
one on
more
my list to improve. So I would say honestly, it's just working on delivering a message better. There's some things I want to say and it comes out fueled by passion, and the intent is appropriate, but the delivery isn't. And also in situations where I'm flustered or frustrated, it just doesn't come out well. So learning how to articulate information to someone, whether it be emotional, whether it be professional, whether it be personal, that's what I strive to do, right? So it's easy to tell someone to go fuck themselves, right? But it's not easy to tell someone like, hey, I value your opinion, I understand where you're coming from, but I cannot align with what you're saying. I do not have the patience to listen to things that are not true to me. So in order not to disrespect you, I'd rather just not carry this conversation. Um, Pretty much it's just stuff like that. People say some things that's just like, yo, you're out of pocket. And this is like, I don't want to deal with it. Nothing against you, but we have this thought that our emotions are limited, right? But it's unlimited. So you think of our emotions, it's just like how the waves come into the beach. It gets replenished. But in our heads, it's just like, yo, like, I'm not going to get mad at something. I'm not going to waste my energy on this. And we think like, hey, like I got mad at someone at work. I'm going to come home and I'm going to kick the cat. But it's just like, hey, that shit that happens at work. And it goes to what Glenn's saying. It's just like, I got to take myself out of it. I have to be able to realize that I still got miles to go in life. I can't let this shit stress me out. I can't have a heart attack at the age of 36 because I'm frustrated about something, right? And that person's frustrating me for whatever reason they have going on. But I wasn't able to articulate to them my level of discomfort. And in my mind, it's ego too. It's just like, how do I express to you something without quote unquote dropping my ego? But it's just like, fuck ego at the end of the day. It's just like, I need to send a message to you so I can better function in this environment. That's what it is at the end of the day. How can I function better in life? And if I'm able to start conveying messages to people, no matter who they are and what they do, no matter how the emotion that they cause, that's what I'm working. It's just like, I'm able to speak to you directly. You understand it. You don't feel disrespected or slighted. And I don't have to get upset. My blood pressure doesn't go from 75 to like 180. You know what I mean? So it's just like, that's where I'm at.
Absolutely. That was a great point there. And to kind of tie it in with the next question, as far as creating environments for us that are conducive, to our overall development, do you believe that we should accept people for who they are, flaws and all, or at some point we're responsible for holding one another accountable? And let's start off with D on this one.
Oh yeah. I was actually just about to jump in anyway. But like, no, 1,000%, you should hold people accountable. Especially if you value them, you should hold them accountable. I think it's too often, it goes all the way back to, an earlier discussion where we were kind of talking about, during CP time, the friends that may not necessarily have your best interest and things like that. And not necessarily truly building those type of relationships. People don't hold each other accountable because they don't have that relationship to hold each other accountable. They just literally like, oh, I don't agree with you on this premise, and then I'm just gonna go my way, you go your way, and we move on, right? But we actually establish true bonds because we hold each other accountable. Not just because someone says something that you like makes them someone that you should keep in your circle. You should get people that may not agree with you on everything. You shouldn't be mirror images of each other, just agreeing straight down the line. So like to Chunky's point very earlier on, when it comes to having a dynamic in a relationship where people have different types of ideologies, yeah, you want to be different in thinking. But, even taking that to a friendship level as well, you still want to apply that same mindset. So, anyway, so keeping people accountable, very, very, very important, especially if you want to have genuine relationships moving forward, within your life.
So is there like any obstacles, look at the tack on to that one when it comes? I know I'm aware of how difficult it can be to keep someone accountable that you quote unquote love, right? Or this is my boy, this is my homie. And I think a lot of the times we get into a trap where, and I'm guilty of it as well, where I just give it a pass. So I'm just, I'm not really one to give like people passes, but it's just like, there's some things I've overlooked just because I'm just like, they'll change, or, this is just who they are, but they really come from a good place. And it's just knowing when essentially to like, and how to draw that line. And, even if that means having that awkward ass conversation and it results in somebody blowing up, I think we've all seen like our methods of conflict resolution personally.
Mhm.
And I just feel like, you know, it is ideal to do. I do believe we should hold one another accountable, but the action of doing it is where it becomes kind of tricky or muddy, or we tend to give passes to people that we feel like, oh, this is just who they are. Like, you know, they really mean well, but this is just who they are. And we get caught up in that trap, and your friendships gets questioned. And I think it's just tricky to navigate, but I do agree it is necessary, but it may not always look the way that we say it is.
I think you can do both.
Mm.
So when holding someone accountable, you hold them to their standard, not the standard that you think they should be at. So I have to be able to fully accept you for who you are. I can't tell you to perform up here when that's not your capability. It has nothing to do with you as an individual or how quote unquote shitty you are, but that's just not where you're at. Let's be honest. Like I can't do some of the stuff that you do or some of the stuff that D Black does. I'm just not at that particular level and that particular quality, right? But there's other qualities that I'm good at. But I don't expect to hold y'all to my qualities, right? Like, oh, you didn't punch that person in the face. I'm gonna hold you accountable for not like defending yourself. It's just like, no, that's not your method, right?
Yeah.
But if you're in a situation where you sit a step forward using what's better in your capabilities, so like for Glenn, like you have a very good way of explaining things, right? And it's like you decided not to say something. Okay, why didn't you say something? You have the potential, you have the capability, and giving people a pass is not letting them slide. It's just like, yeah, sometimes like that's who they are. I understand that message. Going back to what you said, it's just like maybe they're having a bad day, right? So I have to be mindful of like, where is this coming from at the end of the day? This is kind of out of nowhere. So it's just like, all right, well, maybe we'll talk about it later. But if it happens again, then that's where that accountability piece comes in. It's just like, hey, you did this the first time, chalked it up to you having a bad day. Let's have that conversation. If people know that you're coming from a good place, they're not going to take it the wrong way. You're able to work through emotions. Because believe you me, there's a lot of people that don't want to hear negative about themselves, right? That's one of the hardest things you can do as an individual, is to sit there and hear some type of criticism about you. But any criticism is something that will help you grow, whether how you manage that criticism or if you rise to the occasion, just to tell someone, hey, hold my beer, watch me do the shit that you thought that I couldn't, right? So it's all about how you conceptualize it. So to me, to sum it up, you can hold people accountable and accept them for who they are. That's what the perfect mix is to pretty much push your loved ones forward. Like, I know you can't do certain things. Let's work on it together. Hey, you know better than that. I'm going to remind you, like, hey, this shit is not okay.
Yeah, I would say a question to that though, like with family, we're born with family, right? We don't get a chance to really choose who's our mother, our father, our brother, our sister, our cousins. We're forced into those. But with friends, I feel like we do have a certain standard or expectation or boundary that we pass off to make even consider you a friend or a brother, right? So it's just like I can make acquaintances with a million people, but I'm not, that doesn't mean I'm leaving the day with a million friends. Like I'm actually looking at certain aspects of this person before I consider them a friend. I even want to have them in my circle. So in a way, don't we somewhat pass boundaries or expectations on people in order to even make them our friends in the first place? Otherwise, we just have a bunch of acquaintances.
So boundaries, yes. Any human being or any righteous person should have boundaries. Any mature person should have boundaries. There's just some shit that just can't slide, right? If I sat there and, you know, kicked your mother in the stomach, oh, you know, it's coming from a good place, just let me slide with that. There are things that you have a hard limit on, right? If I'm sitting there just consistently betraying you on things that you know I know better than and things that you and I had the conversation on, yeah, you draw that boundary. I'm gonna be honest, even with family, sometimes you got to cut family off, right? There are family members that will test your boundaries, and you're just like, oh yeah, I can't choose who you are in my life, but I can choose to distance you from you because that's just too much for me to take on. That is my boundary. That is one thing that I'm stepping away from, and there's nothing wrong with that. So here's the thing, right? So everyone that's sitting here right now, there's a part of you that's violent. So that's why I'm here as your friend, right? I exude it more than everyone else, but there's a part of you that identifies with me and vice versa. So there's certain things that, like I said before, you're exceptional at that I'm not, and other case around. But if I sit there and, you know, punch someone in the face because they grab my coffee, you're going to hold me accountable. Like, yo, was that the right move, right? You're better than that. So I'm going to talk to you about it. And I can't sit here and give you shit about it because you're correct. Like, and that's the accountability. You understand who I am, but you know where my extents are, and you're going to call that out. And there's nothing wrong with that. If there's an issue with that, then yeah, that's where reevaluation comes into play, where it's just like, yo, you're dead fucking wrong. You know it, and you're not choosing to accept it. So I got to reevaluate my dynamic with you.
All right, so let's move on to the next one. I'm gonna drop Francis in on this one. What is most important to you? The ability to control every aspect of everything you touch, or the ability to relinquish or delegate control over those things?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. So I think so I'm gonna look at this from two lenses. So there's the professional lens and there's my personal life. No, definitely, in my personal life, I think it's important for me to have a pause on what's going on in every part of my life. And it doesn't mean that I don't delegate to my wife, but or she delegates to me, vice versa, right? But I need to understand exactly what's going on in my household. So that's my viewpoint from my profession from my personal life. But in my professional from a professional lens, I'm more of a delegator. I mean, my role at work is to delegate too, because I have junior developers that I tell them, here's what we're working on. This is what your side of, like, this is the project, this is what we need to get done. And in that space I can actually let go, because I lose sight of exactly what they're working on, and until they give me like kind of some kind of a report, like this is where I worked on over the last couple of days. But because the idea of trying to take on everything is too stressful. There's too much to do with not too much time. So, and the only way to accomplish all of that, and when still trying to keep some sanity, is to delegate and to be willing to actually be hands off, and empower those people to make decision on your behalf, right? And obviously, before you can place those people in a place to make those type of decision, you have to train them. You have to, like, actually, they've shown that they can actually perform the work. So it's not something you just give to someone on day one that, oh, here, go do it, right? So it takes time. You trust people, and and uh and I was trying to think of something. I was trying to say something else, but ultimately, yeah, delegating is important, and it's just yeah. I can't. I lost my
No,
train of
that's all
thought
good. So
there,
you're
but yeah,
pretty much in between, depending on whether or not it's personal or if it's even professional. Did anyone
yeah.
have a more direct stance on it? Is it like D Black? Are you in control of every aspect, or is it the same as Fran?
Yeah, honestly, it depends on the situation. It's really kind of hard, but I will say, yeah, I don't want to sound like a echo, but yeah, keeping my hands or some high level visibility or oversight on every situation that that I impact or that may impact me, and then I kind of make decisions from there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, so yeah, so what I was trying to say is sometimes the reason why it's so hard to delegate is, especially as a high performer, sometimes it's hard to give people ability to do the work, especially when we are responsible for the outcome, because you want to, because we always question if people can do the work as well as us with the highest quality and at the time
But
at
what about your
within.
personal experiences? And not to cut you, but what about in your personal life? Is there anything where you say, "Hey, you know what, Boo, you take the reins on this instead of
Oh
me doing
yeah,
it"?
trust me, my wife wish I, like, for example, like anything that we have to do with phone calls. I mean, I learned, like, babe, that's all up in your alley, But like as far as finances and some stuff, she doesn't really care about it. I'm the one taking full ownership of that. So, but like my personal life, I need to know what's going on, so I have a pulse on, like exactly what is going on around me, like what we got going. Like if we have a plan with this couple next week, I need to, we share calendars so we can kind of see what's going on. But she's in charge of her day to day. I'm in charge of my day to day. I don't need to, like, know exactly what's going on with her
Mm,
day, but at least, yeah, but like, yeah, I mean, we delegate to each other, but at the end of the day, we all fully are responsible for our own individual space.
gotcha. All right, so let me ask this question to y'all. Does anyone here believe in karma? Do you believe that there is? I know we're diving into another one, but really wanted to touch on this one because I know some people believe in the idea that there's a morality scale in life, right? You do good, you get good back in return. You do bad, you get even more bad in return. Do you guys live off of any of those principles personally in your lives? Do you attribute anything to karma, or are you more faith-based?
Uh, can I answer the other question and answer that one?
Sure.
I delegate. So the way I do that is just like I trust people and their capabilities. Even if they mess up, I'm gonna be responsible for it anyway. So even if I have my hands in it, do something wrong, whatever, man. I have to let the people that I work with or that work for me do what they do best, because that's what's done for me, right? There are times where my boss didn't have to delegate anything to me, but they didn't let me run with it. So I'm not a micromanager at all. And when it comes down to karma, like I think, yeah, you reap the seeds that you sow. So be good to other people. And sometimes we see another people like, man, this karma never hits them. But to me, it's just having that emotional emotional comfortability when I put my head on my pillow that I treated people the best way I could, right? So there's no reason to kick someone when they're down. There's no reason to abuse anybody unless they're looking for the abuse. Then I oblige to it, not a problem. But be a good human being, period. Right? That's what's going to make everything a hell of a lot better and make your life a hell of a lot easier. So I know we talked about it and one of the other seasons when it comes down to blue zones, right? The people who live longer. It's funny, I was talking to someone at my job and they're just like, hey, the key to looking young and staying healthy is yoga and water. Not have a care in the world, man. So treat people good. People who are just bad, treat them how you feel like it. But at the end of the day, karma gonna bite you in the ass. So if I done 10 good things and one bad thing, fuck it. I think I'm weighing it right. So
So what else? You guys also believe in karma, D Black Friend, or not?
Yeah, I think that for me, I not I'm not a big believer of karma. Actually, to Chunky's point, stress, there's no point of stressing about it. And I think for me, the reason why I don't believe in karma, just not to really drag this out, but I don't believe in doing something with the expectation of receiving something. When it comes to a morality thing, when it comes to being good, or choosing, the correct path or making the right decision, you do it because you're supposed to do it, not because you feel like, I'm receiving good karma here and this person is like a balanced effect of something like that. Like there is no pendulum there. I feel like you do what you're supposed to do, and that's it. God will reward you, if you live by the Bible or whatever, other faith that you may, your religion will kind of take you where you need to go, or however you frame that.
Get you. No, I definitely agree with you there on that aspect. Like it's me being a faith-based individual. And the story I was referencing earlier with Shanquella was actually the story of Joseph in Genesis, where he was sold by his brothers because they were jealous of him, because he had a revelation that he would rule over his family. So they threw him in a ditch and they sold him to the Egyptians, and they claimed that he was dead. But apart from that, yeah, I agree, D. Like I feel like we're commanded to do these things and not with the expectation that something good will happen in return, even though the promise of everlasting life is that return.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not waiting on mankind to tell me, hey, yeah, you did a good thing, or you did what you were supposed to do. I know in my heart of hearts, genuinely, that it's what I'm supposed to do.
Is that karma or praise, right? So the way I look at it from my end of the spectrum, I don't do nice things to tell people that for people to tell me I'm a nice person.
Mm-hmm.
I do nice things because that's the way it's supposed to be, right? If I keep mistreating people, I'm going to eventually be mistreated. No one's going to come and say, hey, you're a horrible shitbag, right? It's just like at some point, things catch up with you. And like sometimes you may have people don't remember what you say to them, but they remember how you treated them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a thing that stands the test of time. I've been into people I haven't seen in 20 years. Like, oh yeah, I remember when you did X, Y, and Z. I'm like, I don't fucking remember that. So it was like, and I was young too. So it's just an impact, right? I don't do things for a reward. I do things because it's the right thing. And if I mistreated them, they'll go on and mistreat other people, which at some point will come back around to me. So it's just like, what circle are you trying to feed, right? Are you trying to feed the wholesome, everyone loves each other, which is possible? Or are you trying to feed the circle where it's just like everyone is just out to get each other, that crab in the pot mentality that we talked about earlier in this episode, right? I'm jealous of you, so I'm going to take you down. It's just like, yo, you're doing great things, big ups. I don't need you to pay me back nothing, but I just want to see people succeed, right? Period. No matter who the fuck you are.
Yeah.
But if you're a horrible person,
I'll say this to answer that question real quick. When it comes to karma, it's about who's delivering the reward, who's delivering the penance, right? And a lot of times we expect that in the form of another human being. It could be, oh, okay, somebody gave me a discount at the store today because I gave a bum $1 the other day. when it really could have been, okay, this person messed up at the register. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I just
mean,
never thought of karma that way.
yeah,
Right. So that's like, I just looked at it like, if I give a bum like $20, I don't give a fuck. Like that bum's
yeah,
either going to get a sandwich or just have a great week.
a great
So
guy.
yeah, so I don't know. I don't expect like someone saw me and then like, oh well, I'm gonna get like 50% off this TV that I wanted. It's just like,
Yeah,
you just got to treat people well. So like,
I mean,
thanks. I never looked at
paying
the
it forward. Paying it forward. No, actually, you know, I think I have a selective way of viewing it because I don't think about the negative with karma, because I think karma, the negative part that happen in life is based on choices, you know. But the part that really that I resonate with is, you know, when I like my mom always says, you know, when we do something good, she always says, you know, your kid would do the same for you, right? And I think, you know, being a good kid, being a good son to my to the people around me, to my family, we are in a way sowing good seeds in the ground, right? So like, so you can also rip that when you are at an older age, that your kids in return can be there for you the way you are being there for your parents. So at least when I think about karma, that is the only viewpoint that I look at it from that lens. Just being a good, yeah, I mean, like pretty much what Chunky said, being a good person. But ultimately, by look at it specifically, like from a family lens, like being a good person to my family, because I can reap, not with the intention of like doing it so I can rip it, but because it's all it is the right thing to do. But the prayer that comes along with it, when my mom actually pray and actually bless the hands that did whatever action that was, you know, is it could be a behavior or it could be given in any kind of form. When those prayer goes with it, I do believe I'm sowing a good seed in the ground for me to rip that in the future. So that is the only, I guess, when you think about karma, that I guess in a way that I look at, that I actually do believe in. So
all right, so I'll ask you guys this question next, and it ties in with karma in a sense. In reference to the acts of kindness, do you believe that it's overrated, and does negativity actually have its own place at some parts in our lives? Because I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos, and there's a lot of like social experiments that happen where a bunch of guys, influencers, will pose as, you know, beggars, and they'll go to affluent neighborhoods and they'll go to poor neighborhoods. And a lot of the times they go to an affluent neighborhood, they'll beg for change, they'll never get anything in return. There was one video where the guy went to Rodeo Drive, you know, that's in California, a lot of wealthy people there, or wealthy looking people there. And he begged, probably from the time lapse of the video, like maybe 20 people. And he said, yo, I'm in this rich behind neighborhood, people out here shopping, and not one person gave me $1. He went to a poor side of California, I think it was like Los Angeles, and a homeless woman actually gave him her cup of coins for everything that she collected for the day. So in return for their kindness, he would give like $10,000 to whoever gave him $1, or 10 times the amount of whatever they gave. And I think he gave one homeless person up to about 10,000. So my thing is, with these social experiments, giving, you know, well, let's answer the first question. Is kindness overrated in a sense? In a way, it's like, it's not what we perceive it to be. Are we selective with who we want to be kind to? Or is it something that just no longer exists today? The act of being kind and courteous, or looking out for your neighbor.
So I think that situation that example, first of all, that you gave is a lot more complicated than just the economic class that they went into, because you know, there is social perception. Like each society is going to have a perception of what a homeless person is, you know, and then the relatability to that homeless person. If you can relate with their plight, if you're coming from that area, you're more likely to give them some money because you know that struggle. But if you're coming from an affluent area who's never experienced that, it's not relatable to you. So, and you may have a negative social perception. So I do think that's a little bit more complicated. But when it comes to the being nice, I do think that, you know, like people, I do feel like there's a sense of more self. I think it depends on where you live. It depends on your culture. But I think here in the US, there is a sense of more self-importance, self-emphasis, self pray.
Individualism,
Yeah,
like raising
individual.
yourself up by the bootstraps and
Yeah,
doing it on your own.
exactly. And then because of that, then the community gets lost, and we don't really emphasize appreciation in other people. I mean, and this is just to serve as proof of this. Even in my professional capacity, like we had a training just to teach us how to say thank you. Like if we had to literally be trained, hey guys, make sure you take an hour. Like we're literally supposed to just take time, 30 minutes out of our week to make sure we thank somebody. Like we need someone to actually tell us, to remind us to thank someone. So of course, as a society, yes, we are somewhat out of touch with appreciation and being nice and doing things nice, because then there's no appreciation. Well, I'm sorry, there's no appreciation for those gestures, and then kind of internally discourages them as well.
So what about the instances? I know you touched on not being able to relate with someone's plight as being a reason to give, but we also see circumstances or situations where people have risen above adversity or poverty, but still fail to contribute back to those that are still in poverty or adversity.
That's
So is it, I get the complications as far as, knowing where you are in life. And, if you're one of those people that were blue collar and maybe did raise yourselves up and being born into wealth, but at the same time, there still seems to be an issue or a dynamic where those that have come out of adversity still don't want to contribute.
I think in my camp, we always encourage each other that, anything you leave behind you or any place you've moved on from, you still appreciate where you came from. So, but I do understand what you're saying, that, yeah, there is a populace that tend to forget where they came from in a sense. But I don't have the statistic on that, but I don't think that's the majority.
I mean, personally, like, do you have to, right? I got myself out of a situation. Why do I have to give back? There's nothing in law that says that I have to. At the same time, let's be realistic. That person could be mentally damaged where they're like, oh, I'm going to hold on to what I got and I'm not going to relinquish it. So I don't think it's a thing giving back, but it's just like we have to look at the mental health of people who've actually been through a lot of struggles and tribulations and finally made it. Where are they at mentally? Right? We can't really judge that. Like, we want people to give back to us? Yes, and there are people that do that, right? So as complicated as it sounds, I think D-Black actually simplified it. Can I relate to you? And that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. It's being able to relate to what you're going through in order for me to help you. If I have no relatability and I don't have the emotional intelligence to just identify things, I'm not going to help you, period. So like for me, I have an example where like I had like a box full of freaking sneakers, right? They were all my size that someone gave to me. I was like, I'm not wearing all of these. And like I had it for a year and I saw someone with a sign on the street saying, anything helps, right? So I went down, I handed him the box of sneakers. I was just like, here, I'm not going to wear these. So here you go, enjoy. And him and I got to talking. He's like, why are you doing this? I was like, I know what it's like to struggle, right? I know what it's like to have 1 or 2 pairs of sneakers for the year. And that's to everything sneakers, and 1 pair is church shoes. So it's just like, I have it well. So why not pass it down to somebody else, right? And and that was my upbringing. So it wasn't fuck society in some instances. It's really situation dependent. But the way I feel is just like, in order to make a better life for myself, I have to make a better life for others. Period. That's what's going to come back. It's not about a return. Like, oh, someone at the grocery store down the street saw me do that, and they're going to talk to me and then give me like, this discount. It's just like, nah, man, like you struggling. I don't need this stuff. It's not doing anything but collecting dust. So here you go. People afforded me opportunities when they shouldn't have, but they identified with me and who I was and what I was going through and gave me the opportunities. So it's just like, just keep doing the best you can to better society. At the end of the day, we're all conscious and capable people. And once again, like I said, it's really dependent on what you feed the most. You want to feed a destructive society? You can't get mad if society is destructive. And you can't get upset if you're trying to feed a positive society and it's not returned in a positive way. Keep doing the best you can fucking do.
Yeah, because I would say me personally on that matter, like I do agree with you, D. I know I hit you with a question, but I do agree with the idea that we live in a capitalist society that preaches individualism and, well, I did it, why can't you do it? Like, what's your situation? What's your hiccup? But I mean, if you even want to get biblical with it, it was a Deuteronomy 15:10, give generously to them and do so without a grudging heart. Then because of this, Lord God will bless you and work and put, everything into your hands. Basically saying that our duty, the whole point of being wealthy is to be able to give back to those that do not have it, because we're all not born on equal footing. Let's be real. Like, we're all not given the same set of circumstances, the same foundation, the same family, the same support system. So at any point, the reason why a guy can amass billions of dollars in the first place is to be able to contribute and help those that are without, you know, help better society in a communal aspect. But you live in capitalism, nah, it's not there. You know what I mean? There is a lot of individualism, and that's kind of the knock that even us as Black people get. It's kind of like, well, you know, you have other minorities that look at us like, well, y'all just too damn lazy to do anything better for yourselves. But one thing I realized, you'll see other communities of minorities that have communities, actual communities, where they spend their dollar with each other. They grow their businesses together. They support their businesses. We don't have that, you know, a lot of the times.
We had it. I'll look at historical context, right? Not remember like it's gone, but like Black Wall Street, so Tulsa, Oklahoma, right? We made shit for ourselves. And what they do to it? Every time we start making some progress, it gets taken down. So I think it's a mix of fear as well, right? So there's a lot of things that contribute to it. I don't think it's just like we refuse to give to each other. I think it's like, not that ingrained in us, but like if you listen to stories of like your grandparents, I'll say for me, listen to my grandmother, she had it hard living in, you know, United States at the point where like racism was just what it was, right? So there's certain things that are passed down. And to me, it's like, I don't have a problem giving back to my community. But we talked about this before, it's about services, right? I'm not going to support my local Black business if they give me a shitty service, right? My expectation for them is higher. But that doesn't mean if there's equal services between one business that's predominantly white and one business that's predominantly Black, I'm just going to go to the right one because I feel more comfortable. It's like, no, you're giving me a great service, I'm going to pay you for that great service. I'm all about helping everyone, right? Period. Do I want to give and keep money in my community? Yes, at all times, right? I lived in an affluent Black community at one point, and we looked out for each other. Am I going to go back and live in the hood? Fuck no, right? Because some people don't have that mentality and understanding. It's like, hey, I'm affluent, I'm doing well. You're just going to try to take it from me. Going back what we talked about at the beginning on CP time. It's hard to differentiate. So you can't be upset at someone if they decide to move away from it because of the dangers that we know that are associated with it. I don't want to play in a room full of snakes all the time. I want to be able to do something better and not have to have that fear.
All right. So let's look at the flip side of this, and we'll use this to close. We talked about kindness. We talked about karma. We talked about faith, personal development. Let's talk about the ugly side of it and negativity. I know a lot of times you see these memes about being positive. The first thing they're trying to tell you is, you know, get rid of negativity. Don't be negative. Stay positive, y'all. Somebody shitting on you? Well, guess what? Stay positive, y'all. Well, let's take a look at this. Is there a place for negativity? Like, does it actually serve a purpose? Meaning, at any point, is it helpful to be a negative individual or to invoke negativity? And let's start off with D on this one, and we'll go to Fran, Chunky, and I'll close it out.
I think that for me, negativity is used for framing. It helps you frame your situation. It gives you perspective. But I guess it doesn't fully define the situation, right? But yeah, for people who have never grown up in an area that's been kind of challenging, or have like a rough upbringing, that don't have that experience, they lack the perspective to appreciate sometimes what they do have. That's why sometimes you have the wealthy, and then their children, they don't get a Lamborghini for Christmas, and they're like, oh my God, mama ripped my hair out, I didn't get a Lamborghini. Like, while somebody else can't even afford dinner, you know what I mean? They can't even have anything, like bare necessities. So the negativity does help you, but it's just unfortunate that we can't always just be continuously appreciative of what we have without needing that negativity as a frame of reference to appreciate what we have.
Brian, what's your take?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good outlook to that question. I mean, when I was thinking about it, I was thinking about it from a constructive criticism. I mean, like, actually, I was thinking of, like a sporting event. Because when I think of like the way Kobe Bryant like invoke his team to perform in a different way, he uses different methodology to like invoke different emotion out of his teammates to enhance their performance at the greatest, stage, right? So for me, when I thought about that question, I was thinking there's a place for it where it does come into play, and it has a lot of power because it can invoke some. It can actually pull you out of this, this funk or whatever that you kind of going through in that moment. And but ultimately, I won't call it negativity. I will call it maybe, constructive criticism, for at least for the lens that I'm looking at this from, and the way that my cousin kind of explained it is a perfect way from that lens as well, because when you come from do not have, and you have a great appreciation for things in life, and it kind of like brought me back to like the previous topic, because when you kind of been through a lot of this, this process in life, you get to a place where, I mean, I think it's important to pull the people behind us up, and not using, and that's where you can use some of the positive and negative feedback to actually invoke and push all the people in front of us to kind of make sure we are hitting the ultimate goal. So, but I would just leave it at that and let Chunky go.
Yes, this is where violence comes in handy. Just kidding. I think negativity serves a purpose, right? And that's that artificial stress. So just like D Black was saying, and just like you said, Glenn, just like Francis is saying, if you put enough pressure on someone or something, they get better. And it's that understanding of that, where it's just like, if I give you everything in the world and I'm nice and soft with you, you're not able to deal with a lot of different situations. I look at sports, right? So I know when D Black and I played, sometimes the coach wasn't that nice. Sometimes my teammates weren't that nice. I drop a pass, it's lights out, right? And there's people just yelling and screaming at me like, yo, what the F is wrong with you? You can miss that pass, blah, 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 blah. But it was to make me better, like, okay, cool, this is where I messed up. People aren't, everybody in life is not going to be that soft with you, right? It's not going to be that gentle with you. So there is negativity with a purpose when it comes down to developing people, better people, when it comes down to developing stronger character, when it comes down to developing better leadership. You look at the military, for example, you go through basic training, it's induced stress, right? So it's a lot of negativity thrown at you like, hey, your boots look like shit. Hey, your uniform looks like shit. Hey, you can't tell your asshole from your mouth. You're a different type of person. Get that shit together. But at the end of the day, when you're out in the field and you're getting shot at, you got to get it together, right? Person to my left and the person to my right, that person has to defend those two people and have to be able to trust you. When shit gets hard and shit gets real, can you arise to the occasion? But if I never give you any negativity, if I never give you any induced stress, the first time you encounter something stressful and above your means of comprehension and understanding, you're going to fold. And I say that from experiences. I've been through things where I'm just like, oh shit, everyone hates me. And it's just like, no, I haven't been through something that challenging or tough. I haven't been through something in that realm, right? So there's negativity with a purpose of making someone better. There's also negativity where people are just assholes. So I take part in that too. So,
Absolutely.
but even then, it's knowing like, okay, this person's an asshole. Once again, it's that saying, hold my beer. For those of you who don't drink, hold my coffee mug, right? I'm going to show up and show out. A saying that I have for myself is put your toes on the line. I know a lot of people have had arguments with on the football field, right? If you think you're that much fucking better than me, let's go one-on-one. Let's see what I'm made of. Let's see what you're made of, right? Can I really handle that? Can I really meet you at that level? And if I fail, it's okay. Not everyone is perfect. Even your best inventors failed at something, but end up creating something great afterwards.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Amen. I could not agree anymore, brother. Like, I believe negativity is a matter of perception. Opposition does exist to condition us, to hone us. I mean, fire is here for a reason, to shape us and to mold us, to make us stronger characters. So
That's a good one.
I really do believe in pragmatism. I don't call it negativity. I just call it pragmatism. So where you're just keeping it 100% real. And a matter of existence, it's real. We got some shitty people out here. We have some good people out here. We have kind acts not being returned. We have negative acts going unpunished on the mortal realm, as far as what I believe. But just knowing that all the opposition that is here, all the negativity that does exist is meant to shape us and to mold us into stronger, especially particularly us men, stronger men, bolder men, more courageous men, fearless men. So, and then this goes to women as well, not just us, but this speaking as far as a male panel.
Yeah.
So
Everybody.
couldn't agree.
One thing before we get off to Francis, to shock him, I don't know much about basketball, but I did see is I think in the Olympic basketball game, Kobe ran over Paul Gasol during that and proved the point to his team. Like, if this motherfucker's willing to run over his own teammate,
right?
That was that negativity that ended up creating that positive pressure on the opposite end. Like, yo, this man is down to win.
Good reference. Yeah. No, that was to invoke this emotion and just show like, okay, I'm serious. You guys have not been able to like capture this ultimate goal, but I'm here and I'm going to show you what it takes, and that is what it takes. So, and it takes some doing bad things to your own teammates sometimes to get that done. So,
i.e. Mamba mentality.
That's how I coined the phrase Mamba mentality. But it definitely, you can see that trend amongst those few people that have risen above, human standards, where it really takes strong will and determination to get to those places. And hopefully we're all putting that will and determination in the right direction. But for more content to learn about the podcast, feel free to check us out at Jerk Jaloff Collar Pod on Instagram and YouTube. Podcast episodes drop every week. You can hear the audio on Libsyn or any podcast streaming platform, Apple, Spotify, all that good stuff. Be sure to leave us a review. We're working real hard on this content, getting out to you guys in a timely manner, trying to talk about things that you all love. So definitely feel free to reach out to us, a direct message on Instagram, Jerk Jaloff Collar Pod, to send us any topic suggestions, any subtle tips, hints, constructive criticism, or negative, pragmatic feedback. We're all about going and growing. Until then, hope to see you all again next week. We'll be doing our last 2 episodes for the season after this, and then we'll be taking a little break and starting back up in 2023, God willing. Hope to see you all then. Chop it up with you all next year and the rest of this year. Enjoy the holidays. We've got more episodes coming up. Other than that, peace.
Peace.
So,
okay, bye.
Wagwan, are you there? What's good? It's your homie G with the Jerk Jaloff and Collard Greens podcast, extending a major thank you on behalf of the team for checking out this episode. Love what you heard? Leave us a review on your podcast streaming platform. And don't forget, don't be selfish, share this with your friends. Looking to get more podcast related info, major announcements,